says it's 6 o'clock. Is that right?
I agree. Mine
Okay.
said that a moment ago, so
So the Bond Oversight Committee meeting for April 17th, 2023 will come to order. We have a quorum, I am told. And the second item on the agenda is to review and approve the October 22 minutes. What's your pleasure? I assume everybody's had a chance to read them. We've had them for some time now. I mean, I can be very formal, or we can assume that if nobody has comments, that we're ready to approve them. Is there any objection to approval of the minutes?
No, I move we approve them.
All right, so we are going to be formal. Alan moves that we approve the minutes. Is there a second?
Roger seconds.
Roger seconds. Thank you. Is there any objection to the motion? If there is, we'll take a vote. I don't see any objection. Minutes are approved. All right, let's go on. We have the great pleasure today of welcoming Dr. Bolger, the president of the college, who has some remarks for us. President Bolger, please.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. It's so nice to see you again. I've been to one of your meetings, and it's always a pleasure to see all of you. So thank you for being here. Since you met last October, we've had a shift in our Vice President of Finance position, and we wanted to thank Dr. Stalliard for his service to Lane Community College, and as he moves to other experiences. I also wanted to talk with you a little bit about the charge of the Bond Oversight Committee, just to refresh everyone's understanding of the role of the Bond Oversight Committee. And it's fairly straightforward. The Bond Oversight Committee, as you know, is charged with reviewing progress on the projects that are detailed in the LCC bond measure, the one that was in 2020. It's called 20-306. It was approved by the voters in May 2020 election. We want to thank all the voters of Lane County for voting for this bond. The committee also reviews progress and monitors bond spending and schedules. And that's some of what the work that you're going to be doing this evening. The committee meets at least once annually. When the committee meets, it will review a list of bond projects proposed for the coming 12 months, review progress on bond projects and quarterly reports for the previous 12 months, determine if the college did what it said it would do, a very important role that you have, and present a report annually to the Board of Education. With that, I will take any questions you might have about your responsibilities.
Hi.
Go ahead.
you're
Okay,
muted,
great.
Joe.
Alan, did you have a question?
No,
Okay.
just getting my stuff straightened out here. Thank you.
Okay. All right.
That sounds great. I know this is a review for most, if not all of you. Now I'd like to take just a couple of minutes and give you a sense of where we are, where Lane Community College is right now, and where we're headed. A bit about where we're headed, and I'll take a couple of questions if you have them related to that as well. I've been here nearly a year, as you know, and I want to give you a sense of where I've been over the last 10 or 11 months or so. When I began at the institution, part of my onboarding experience was to have a community transitions team and also an internal transitions team. The community transitions team comprised of community members, universities, K-12, other entities as well. And they told me some very, very interesting things about working in this community and what the community needed. One of them was that Lane County needed a hub for workforce development. And why not Lane Community College being that hub for workforce development? I took that information to my team, to the cabinet. The cabinet said, well, we've been wanting to do this for quite a long time. And I've been talking with individuals, faculty, classified professionals, students, everyone around the campus about this idea of positioning Lane to be the workforce hub of Lane County. It happens to be resonating. It happens to be the centerpiece of a feasibility study that we're going to be doing toward a capital campaign. So the Board of Education has adopted that vision as well. So that's where we're headed. And we certainly want to share with this committee, with the BOC, that we believe that we're headed in the right direction, that the BOC wants us to head in. And so positioning the college to be the workforce hub not only includes workforce development or career technical education, but it also includes any education that we offer to the community. So that's for community education, those are courses that the community might come to us to take. That includes transfer education, that's university transfer education, of course, the career technical education, our GED, our ESL courses. So when you take one course here at Lane Community College, we consider you part of our alumni network. And that means that you would be able to come to the community college, Lane Community College, for education and training to upskill and reskill throughout your lifetime or throughout your career. And so I wanted to share that because I thought that that visioning would resonate with the Bond Oversight Committee because it's very closely aligned with what you're charged to do for us with regard to the bond. So thank you very much for allowing me to take that time. I don't know if there are any questions for me, but I'd be happy to answer anything you might have.
Great, thank you so much, Dr. Bulger. Are there questions for her?
Hi, my name's Terry. I don't think I've met any of you. I recognize a few names. I'm the new member on the committee that just started. And I also want to, it does resonate very well with me because I am an alumni from over 50 years ago. And I started, you know, at LCC the term after I graduated from high school until I was drafted to go into the service. But when I got out, I came back, got my associate's degree, and I've now got my master's degree, and I've been very successful of the things that all started at LCC. So just wanted to chime that in.
Thank you for that.
Great endorsement, Terry, and thank you so much for joining the committee. Other questions or comments for Dr. Bulger?
Alan will say something here.
Alan, please.
Yes, very much. I appreciate hearing that LCC is heading for workforce development. I'm kind of an old timer there. In 1973, I was part of the team that worked on the nationwide development for workforce interfaces with K-12. So anything you're doing today, I would encourage you to be sure you pull in representatives from every darn school board in our county. The school boards get buried in all their frettings and they lose their big picture. And if you don't have citizen investment in what you're doing for workforce development, you're just going to go around the block again. That's all. Thanks.
Thank you, Alan. I appreciate your feedback, your input. I really appreciate that.
Other questions or comments for Dr. Bulger? I have one, and I want to applaud your orientation toward the workforce development. I think that's absolutely critical. I've had some work done in the past couple of years by plumbers and electricians, most of whom are very nearly as old as I am and are retiring. And finding people in the trades who are skilled and able to do this work is going to be more and more critical for us. And so this is a key item for our community, is to have well-trained younger people ready to take over for the baby boomers who are retiring. And the second comment I have is that we're faced now through the IRA and the workforce, the infrastructure bills from the federal government with the possibility of adding businesses to Oregon, and having workforce available is one of the key items for having for getting companies to come here, take advantage of our economy and become a part of it. I can tell you that since Alan's given you a little history, I'm going to give you a little too. When I was on the Eugene School Board, the chip factory out on West 18th was a developing concern, and Lane Community College at that time took on the job of training the people who were going to work there. So while the building was under construction, so were the workers at Lane Community College. And so we have a long history of that, and I'm really, really pleased to see that that's a major focus. Other questions, comments for Dr. Bulger? Thank you so much for presenting to us tonight. That's wonderful and very helpful.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Upcoming dates, and this has been assigned to me, and I'm going to tell you that Megan has told me that the Bond Oversight Committee it will be invited to the ITEC groundbreaking ceremony on Friday, May 19th, from 12 to 12:30. So that's your hardhead experience with the new building, and the one frankly that we've just been discussing, even though we hadn't called it by name. So put that on your calendar, May 19th at noon. And I assume, Tom, that the college will issue the hard hats that we might need if we need them.
yeah, we'll have things for that particular one. In that range, we'll also be beginning to offer tours of the health professions building, which we'll talk about a little bit more. And as the ITech building gets under construction, we'll do that. They're also in the planning stages of something out at Florence Center to celebrate that grand opening. On those, we are working with the LCC Foundation. Expect to see emails from Tiana at Lane, LCC Foundation, in the coming days and weeks that'll invite you both for that grand opening. Hard hat tours we'll be offering for the health professions building. That'll be an ongoing thing. We'll offer a couple of them a month that you can sign up for. So that'll be an ongoing thing that if you're in the neighborhood or want to come join things, you're offered to do that, and we'll continue that on. And I'm sure, Tiana, we've been working on trying to get some regular outreach on that. So hopefully that helps clears up those things. And again, for Florence, Tiana will be helping us to promote that as we work with the community out there and find the right time to celebrate the new facilities. And if you're ever out there, I hope you'll drive by, take a walk through and enjoy a pretty transformational change to that facility out there. So
Right, that's great. Yes, and remember the warning that we got before all of you were here and before the meeting officially started, that you may not recognize the email because it comes from the LCC Foundation rather than from our committee. So be prepared. I have an editorial comment, if I may. I think it's very clever to have the foundation doing these walkthroughs, because among other people, you may get some donors who will help you do the finishing touches on the buildings. It's always a good idea. Okay, and now let's go on to the design and construction updates. Tom and let's see.
Jennifer will
Tom,
help
why
me
don't you
get-
take it away? You're going to
Yep.
talk about the summer construction projects, the ongoing projects, and projects in closeout, please.
Yeah, if I can share my screen for a moment. I just want to show you, we do have a live camera for the health professions building that perhaps you can see on the screen here. We started erecting steel at the beginning of the month. This is about a little more than halfway through the size of the building, where we started at the west end, the right-hand side of your screen, and we're working to the east towards the left. You can see it's a 3-story building. So obviously an exciting piece that we're doing a little something on campus at least. So hopefully you can see this. This picture is taken from one of the light poles over by the track. So I just wanted to share that real quick and prove that I haven't just been sitting here doing nothing. So thank you for that. I'll stop that sharing and move on. Other things that are going on this summer will be in the end of June, we'll be starting to replace the synthetic turf on both the soccer field as well as the infield for the track. That's a project that the board approved that contract at the 1st of April, or the 4th of April, I guess it was technically. So that'll be happening. Talked about starting construction on the Industrial Trades and Education Center, which will be on the east side of campus. Looking forward to that. There's already some work going on around campus for that, doing some preliminary excavation. One of the things that we started a little bit ago was the replacing the campus compressed air system that is in the old test cells from when it was when the Air Academy was on campus in Building 10. We'll be taking those down, and so we're relocating that. Some other things we have going on, we're working on replacing all the security cameras on campus. Most of those were, 10 years plus old on a fairly old system. So we've been updating that to a more modern system and continuing to make those replacements as we go through. That's a big deal. The other thing we're starting we've been working on, but hope to start some implementation, is upgrading some of the classroom security. We've been working on determining what the best approach to getting some combination of electronic locks and things into our classrooms. And I think we've come up with an affordable solution. It'll take some time to do that, but one of those things that we continue to work on there. Those are the big things here now. Ongoing projects, we continue to improve. One of the big things that I think goes behind the scenes is our internal workings here for the bond management. We continue to work. We have an accountant on board now and are cleaning up all of our accounting. We're implementing a project management system using smart sheets that helps us track, both store information as well as track projects. Hopefully by the end of the next quarter, we'll start getting some reporting tools from that'll have consistent graphics. When we get into things later, you've seen some of my tables and charts and things. We're trying to work those for each project as well as kind of overall, but that's helping us track, making sure we're paying invoices, making sure we're not overcommitting, all of those kind of things, and just making sure the work's getting done and tracked properly is a big thing. That's a big ongoing project that's happening here. And then, of course, we've got our Florence project that's moving towards closeout. That is a project that we jumped into quickly, trying to take advantage of the time in the pandemic that classrooms weren't being used very much. Unfortunately, trying to jump into it, the pandemic also left us with some problems getting some procurement of some of the key pieces. We're catching up on that. At this point, we still have two major elements that are in here of a replacement of some key electrical gear, as well as the final electric heat pump that'll help make the building more efficient. Both of those are in the final delivery or started for shipping. One of them actually comes from Europe, so we're tracking it on the shipment coming from, I think it's Italy, but getting that in, we hope to have that in. Probably won't install some of those things until the end of classes because we hate to interrupt classrooms any more than we have to. One of the things that we are doing, we have new audiovisual equipment that we've procured, and that I'm informed has arrived within the last couple of weeks, and we'll start installing that as the month goes on and hopefully have that up and functioning out there, as opposed to some of the old equipment that they've been struggling along with since who knows when, I think is an appropriate way to put it. Any questions on that part?
No, questions? I think we're ready to go on, Tom.
Oh, great. I see a question from
Oh,
Jennifer.
Jennifer has a hand up. You'll have to unmute, Jennifer.
Sorry about that. I just wanted to double check. So all the things you just discussed, are these all part of the bond? Because I heard things like artificial turf. Was that a part of the original bond agreement?
Yes, it was. Jennifer, do you want to address that?
Yeah, it was part of the original bond plan, and it's replacing the synthetic turf and the soccer field and the track and field. And they're under the category of deferred maintenance.
Mhm. How old are those now? Do you know?
They're over 10 years old now.
They're
Yeah.
approaching 12 years. They have a typical lifespan of 10 to 12 years. And what happens when they get old is they get hard. And so you have both slip problems as the grass wears down, as well as potential for injury when
Yeah.
people fall on it. So it's one of those maintenance programs. And we actually were able to get a pretty good deal out of with the purchasing, that by moving it up a little bit, they expedited our delivery, and we'll do it in June before it gets busy. And they're going to give us 2 years of free maintenance by the manufacturer. So that was a big win for us. That should extend the life of the overall turf once this is installed. So, yeah, some of the things we're trying to do.
Right. Thank you. Other questions? I guess we're ready for the next item, which I think is projects in closeout. Is that right?
Yeah, I think project in closeout, really right now, it's that Florence project is really our only project that we're trying to get in closeout. Part of that will be, as we're getting near the end, we're certainly doing punch list, cleaning up the accounting. But one of the things we'll be doing is I have hired an independent auditor to go over everything, to match it to the contract and check all the billings and just make sure we've been billed properly. They've charged us appropriately per the contract. The auditor did a preliminary audit almost a year ago now as they got into some billing, just to try and clean things up a little bit there, but they'll be going back through. Our auditor has all the contracts, all the terms, has studied that to make sure we follow that. And they'll be giving us a report when we're done with that, so we can make sure we don't get overcharged.
Well, great. And that the things get done in the manner that was expected. I'm assuming that those audit reports will be available to the committee
Yes.
after they're prepared, and that they will be extremely boring reading.
I hope so.
You know, from my view, the best auditor report is one that you fall asleep over because there's nothing interesting in it. Because interesting audit reports mean something's wrong. Yeah.
Agreed. I think, my past experience, I instituted the audit. It's not that contractors necessarily are trying to do anything wrong, but each group has its own twists, and each contract has its own things, and contractors get complacent in using forms from one place to another and not necessarily following the terms and conditions that we set out in the contract, and it doesn't always follow through. And part of my job is to make sure they do, and I remind them of that and check them once in a while. But having that independent auditor also reminds me that I'm not perfect either.
Right. Yeah. Well, I feel I get some comfort out of the fact that you're having an independent auditor, because I think that specific issue is one of the key obligations of this committee. It is to oversight on projects and getting them finished in accordance with the contracts that the board has signed. So I think I'm right about that. Am I not, Tom, that that's part of our job?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think that's within your purview or somewhere within there. And I don't
Good.
imagine any of you want to volunteer to actually do the auditing. So
No, no, that's why you have an independent auditor whose only job it is to take an eagle eye to what's happened and a final check.
Yep.
Yeah, good.
Agreed.
Thank you. Comments, questions about that. So that's another reason I think, if I could just add that for people to get over to Florence and take a look at the project over there as it's finishing up. When do you think that you'll actually get the building ready to be completely in use? Do you know?
We're pretty much completely in use now. We're missing some AV, but they're teaching their full cohort of what they can get offered right now. They're still ramping up their course load following the pandemic. That was a group that probably took a harder hit than a lot of campus. Just the nature of the clientele out there was much more in-person type things, but they're ramping up, have full use of the facility. So for most of you, I don't think that you'd notice things that aren't done. There are a few pieces of tape on the wall where they have to patch and repair some paint maybe or something like that. But it really is looking pretty nice out there.
Great. Thank you very much. Other questions for Tom? Comments? Okay, so we're ready to go on into the budget updates. And we have a document for that, don't we?
Yes.
I think it's this green and blue thing.
The green and blue thing. Yes, this is, more or less the format I've been going on since the start of this committee. It hopefully it's a really boring document, but I try and keep reporting it the same way for a matter of consistency. I think one of the pieces that when you look at this under encumbrance and expense as of March 31st, you look down at the bottom and it says we've either spent or have it under contract for $56 million as of the first, with some approvals of the board in April, at the April 4th, which was after this. With the ITEC, we're almost at $100 million committed, which is a pretty major undertaking to go from 3 years ago, a program where I think Jennifer was probably, if she was lucky, $500,000 a year, to being able to manage nearly $100 million worth of construction is a pretty big undertaking. We did have some commitments with the bond to spend it quickly. So I'd like to think that that's a win for us, getting there. It'll be really interesting. I think, now we're seeing the money start to flow. As we do cash flow projections in the next, we're starting to pay bills in several $1 million a month, each month for the variety of construction. So that's part of the reason when I talk about getting a project management system put together, it's really important for me to be able to track all of that when that kind of, all those invoices come in, and getting some people to review them is a challenge. So.
One of those things that the auditor is going to be eagle-eyeing later.
Yeah, I'm sure somebody will look over my shoulder sooner or later.
Right.
Any questions about this page of the report?
Questions, comments? I have one. We're all of us very aware of the fact that a few unexpected things have happened since the bond measure passed, all of which have had effects on the capacity of construction companies and the college and everyone. Do you have any sense or comments you could make today on this report on how this the actuality of what you're doing compares with what was expected at the time the board proposed the bond measure? I'm sure that there are some things that had to be modified or changed in order to accommodate the changes that have occurred since then. Could you give us just a thumbnail about that topic?
Well, I will. I'll start with Jennifer is going to make a board presentation Wednesday on that exact topic, I think. Those of you that, Megan always sends out that invitation or the piece afterwards. So Jennifer, do you want to comment about it at all, or?
Yeah, I'll just say at a high level, we are accomplishing most of the things. There are a few things that shifted from, doing a little bit more major maintenance in Florence, doing a little bit less in building 6. But, for the most part, surprisingly, even with construction escalation, the crazy way it is, we're accomplishing most of it.
That's great.
Yeah.
Megan, would you send us a reminder about the report at the board meeting? Because I think some of us would like to see Jennifer's report. There's no reason for her to repeat it here, especially since it probably isn't ready yet. But I think it's within our purview, and we some of us at least ought to attend that meeting, or at least part of it. And that is available on Zoom, isn't it? It is. Okay.
Yes, it will
Great.
be. Hopefully everybody's been getting, I know Megan has been sending out updates with each board meeting about what's going on. And
yeah,
so this is all on board docs, that's kind of a side note there.
that's great. Well, now that I know that this report's coming, I'm going to make a special note to actually attend that part of the meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we're later in the meeting, if I read the agenda right, but that's where Megan always sends out the link to the recording with where to go to for when it starts as well. For those of you that prefer not to stay up late or whatever, to listen to all that fun stuff beforehand and don't want to miss it. That's always a good thing.
Right. Anything else for Tom? I mean, we went through this very fast.
Jerry, it looks like he has his hand.
Oh, I'm sorry. Please.
That's okay. Tom, this is actually for you, and I apologize for maybe it's not the right place to ask, or I'm catching up, but I was looking through the amendments that were done here, approved a couple of weeks ago. And first off, I want to say I'm really glad to see that there has been so much of a high percentage of the local contractors and workforce that's coming from Lane County. That's really nice to, to see that. But I did have a question. I think it was on, I think, let me see here. On one of the line items I saw under that amendment number 2, I saw there was a lot of money that's used for fencing and temporary barricades, like almost 200,000. Is any of that able to be reused later in the projects or any of the other projects, or is it rented or is it just part of the project?
That's part of it. Generally it's rented because they maintain it and all of that, and it kind of comes and goes. The way those budgets are is it is an allowance that they bill against. So again, when we do the audit, we're going to see every invoice and check to make sure they, one, billed for the right project. I caught a few of those where they tried to bill me for things that were labeled for the wrong project. But that's the kind of thing. It's just that general cost of keeping the campus safe, keeping people out, and making sure, particularly on an active campus like ours, that we want to make sure our students are safe, keep people out of the construction site, and keep the workers at a distance from all our students as well, so that there's a thing.
And then the only other question I had was I noticed that on your project schedule on the Gantt chart, there's some red lines. Are those indicating like your critical path, or are they behind schedule? I was specifically looking, is that what those are?
Yeah, that's the critical path, so that, even at this point, we're looking at what the key things are and where we have what's called float in the schedule, or where it's, hey, we got to make sure these things arrive on time, or what are those errors that are going to happen? You know, what does it mean, and how do you make that up if something goes wrong there? So
Okay.
that is the key thing to that.
Great. And then the last question while I remember is, I like the link to the live cameras. Can that be shared with us? So if we wanted to, you know, pop in and take a look at any time? Can
Yeah,
Megan send that out to us?
yeah, I'll
Oh,
make
aren't
sure
that
that
required? That's a great idea. Can we
yeah,
do it?
it is there. It does have a live web, so you can even watch during the day. Watch the guys put up some of the steel once in a while, but I'll make sure I'll give that link to Megan, and we'll get that out to you.
Thank you.
Terry, that's a fantastic idea. Thank you. Brad has a hand up.
Yeah, this is a question for, I think, Tom. We all know that, you know, getting things started takes time, and you also have some financial restrictions, arbitrage, for example. Is your current spending rate, has that eliminated any worries about any kind of arbitrage obligations?
Oh,
Yeah,
great question.
well, more or less. I
Okay.
think when he's talking about, you know, arbitrage, it's, yeah, we did have some commitments. We had tax exempt bonds that had spending limitations on it. As we've been working with our bond counsel, you know, I will admit, we aren't going to quite make a true spending of it, but the fact that we have it encumbered and actually made that hard effort, our bond counsel actually gave us kudos for that, let alone they said many groups don't even seem to bother.
Right.
But it was one of the things. Yeah, we were supposed to have, I think it was 80 some million in 3 years.
Yeah.
I'll have to have 100 million encumbered or spent, and I think we're at right now about 20 million spent.
Yeah.
So we've made some good efforts.
Yeah, I think for me, it's just that you obviously have an awareness about the issue, and that's important.
Yeah.
The second piece, and this is my, you know, okay, architect for public, you know, entities in the past. I always have an issue with, and this is with 4J when I worked there, and with the city for 25 years. You know, the bond money is hard to get. Obviously, you know, that's why this committee is set up to help in the future. One of the issues, though, that always comes up, and it's not anything that's easy to solve, is that the funds for, you know, new projects or renovations, you know, bond projects, sometimes is easier to get than ongoing operating dollars. So what my pet peeve, worry, caution is, you're spending a whole lot of money renovating all these facilities, and a lot of the things that are on the list were due to deferred maintenance. I'd hope that the message can go to the board that equally important to the bond process and the bond committee's work, people need to be aware that there's now another obligation to take care of what you just built. You don't buy a new car and drive it until it dies and then buy a new car, you know, and we're talking buildings that are, you know, several $1 million. So that's my sort of, you know, caution about the future. And having been in the public sector side, I totally understand the dilemma with operating budgets where those funds have to come from because the demands are so high. So I'm just asking for people to have an awareness and make that case when you can.
Brad, thank you so much for those comments. I think they're really, really important. The first one, of course, affects the tax deductibility of the interest payments. And the second one is a really critical one. If I could just comment, the way public entities divide budgets makes the concern that Brad has more likely, because the ongoing budget has to pay for salaries and ongoing operations. And of course, theoretically, it should apply to maintenance as well. And the temptation is always to apply more of it to those first things and less to the last. And the reason for it is because of the way we budget and raise and spend money in the public arena that is different than what private businesses do. So it's great to be aware of that. And of course, President Boger and Tom are listening to this conversation, and I'm sure they know exactly what this issue is and are faced with it constantly. Am I going to do maintenance on this critical areas to keep my expenses down over the long haul this year, or am I going to open this really important program? Very difficult decisions to be made. Other comments or questions? Yeah, I want to welcome. I think we have a couple of other new people here today. Am I? And are you one of the student members? I'm sorry, nobody told me, so I didn't know. I don't know.
Oh yeah, no worries. Sawyer and I are both student representatives.
Yeah, I just did my own link, so we're
doing it together.
yeah.
Great.
Welcome and thank you.
That's why I'm welcome. And it's a push to catch up, but you're welcome to try. Yeah. And thank you so much for being here. And we've already met Terry. Who else do we have who's new today, if anybody? I don't think so. Okay, I'm going to interrupt the agenda for just a minute and mention the fact that Megan and I have been discussing the reality that we have a report to make to the board, probably at its July meeting. And we're going to try to get a little bit ahead of that this year so that we don't have to call a special meeting right before their board meeting as we did last year. So I just want to let you know that that's happening. And I think Megan and Tom are going to have a few more comments to make about that, even though it's not specifically on the agenda. And any other questions from the committee? Or are we down to the last couple of items? Okay, Megan, you're up. Future board future meeting dates. And I might have taken your thunder, I'm not sure.
You're welcome to take my thunder, or I can keep it.
Okay.
I'll keep it. So we are looking at an email update in mid-July, as per the charter. And then a tentative fall meeting date of October 16th. That stays with the regular schedule of the third Monday of the month when we have meetings. So if there is an issue with October 16th, please let me know. It is not set in stone yet. And then we are considering a special meeting, likely very brief, on June 12th, if that works, to approve the report that will go to the board in July.
All right. Thank you. That was the conversation that Megan and I had earlier today, was to talk about that special meeting. Let me just note that according to the order that the board signed when this committee was set up, the description is that it's the chair's report. But as happened last year, I'm not planning to submit any reports that the committee hasn't approved. So we will make sure that we have a report prepared well in advance of June 12th for you to review and comment on, and we'll be prepared. I think Tom and I think are probably who's going to write the thing. We'll be prepared to take comments and criticisms before that June meeting. And I recall last year we met for about 10 minutes, I think, in order to approve it, because we had done the work in advance to actually consider what needed to go into the report. Tom, do you have any comment about that today?
No, I think that's, I don't like to write up too much about, reporting on myself, I guess, is part of it.
Yeah.
So I do encourage people, I do have some knowledge, so I'll try and give some things and pull information that I've been sharing with you and help fill with that. But truly, I hope it is from all of you and you do comment and, let the
So-
board know if I'm not, what's not going well or what concerns you have
Right, yeah.
along the way too. I think that's a big thing.
Well, and of course, that's why the board set this committee up. In addition to the fact that the bond indenture probably requires it, it also wants citizen input on how it's going. So this is not just a formality, it's pretty important. So if, as you review the documents that we have, you put on your hard hat and go out and see the projects, please get back to Tom, Megan, and actually Megan and me to make sure that your questions get answered. And if necessary, put it in the report. Tom is very modest, by the way. He did most of the work on last year's report because it had a lot of information in it about where things had gone up to then. And of course, now he's running a 25 ring circus. And so the report is likely to be more detailed than the last one was. Anything else before we adjourn tonight?
Chair Barnhart, if I
Yes,
might.
please.
So wanted to, and committee, just wanted to share that the group is planning to prepare a community update on the bond program, and that's going to be targeted for September. That's going to be prior to your meeting in October. So I wanted to make sure that I mentioned that. We know how important communication is and communication to the broader community.
Okay. Do you want to say just a couple more words about that? So that we can see where we might fit in to that process?
Yes, I wonder if I could get Tom and Jennifer's help with that. What are you planning on?
That'd be great.
Basically, it's going to be a mailer that'll go out to everybody who lives in Lane County with a description of what we said we would do in the bond and where we're at with our projects.
Yeah,
So
I think it would be
a glossy distilled version of what we present to you every quarter.
Right. And one assumes there's a link to a web page where people can find more information if they want it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I think that's really great. And Roger has a hand up. Roger.
Well, I was just going to add that I very much encourage the people to come and help celebrate the opening of the Florence project and to see how it fits into the community. Not only its fiscal setting, but its relationship to all the economics that happen in the community and how important it is to the community that this board, this committee, and so on reports to people about how it's going on. And I would encourage us to make certain that report you give to the board becomes public information and widespread public information as well. Florence is, as the representative from Florence, I'm kind of proud of the fact that we are the Judas goat that goes out there in front of the rest of them and have led people into the right direction. So I'm pleased with what's going on. I especially want to compliment you, Phil, for your grace in running these meetings and including everybody and taking the hits that you don't deserve when people are not happy about things. So please come to Florence.
Thank you, Roger. I appreciate the comment and both comments. I will say that the hits are pretty light compared to what I've put up with sometimes in the past in other contexts. Thank you. And before we go, Sally, did you want to make an announcement or not? That's up to you.
Yes, I've enjoyed being on this committee, and this is my last meeting. I'll give someone else a chance to participate. Thank you all. Phil, I think you've done a wonderful job of chairing this committee and taking some hits that you didn't deserve. And I just appreciate everyone trying to help us through this process. So thank you very much.
Thank you. And thank you for your service here and in other places in the community where you've been involved in. And I hope that your next endeavor is useful, entertaining, and helpful to the community as well. Thank you so much. All right. Is there anything else for the committee tonight? Roger, you have your hand up. Is that an old hand or a new one? He's got his mute on too, so I can't tell.
No, I just failed to put it down.
Oh, okay, all right. If not, you're gonna get a few minutes back tonight. My clock says there's 9 minutes before 7, so this is great. If there's nothing else, we are adjourned. Thank you so much.
Thank you all. Appreciate
Thank
your
you.
time.
Bill. Yes. Good night, everybody.
Good
night.
job, Tom.
Thank you.